Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about cool down exercises, specifically hip flexor stretch. There are many versions of the hip flexor stretch. We are going to talk about the simplest version first and use some props to get into it. Let's grab our not yoga mat, 3 feet wide by 6.5 feet long. This is an equipment mat for treadmills or rowers that goes under things. It is great if you are in these less permissible environments to lay down on the ground so you don't end up laying in, something poisonous. Any way you want, get down to the ground, whatever that entails. If you need to use a prop to help you get down to the ground, use a prop. This is a very simple stretch. We're focusing on our hip flexor. Our goal here is to create length in the front of the hip. We can start in a 90-90 position, which means lead leg vertical, rear leg vertical, and we are going to go outside beyond that. This is how our normal lunge is set up, 90-90. We are going to go beyond that because we would like to have a safety range of motion beyond what we expect our body to need. So let's move our foot forward about 1 full foot length of ourself and then drive our lead leg forward to drive this hip into the ground. There are several yoga postures that look very much like this, where they will reach up overhead and look towards the sky. We're gonna cut that part out for now. We are going to try to tuck our tailbone to squeeze this glute, drive this hip forward. If we squeeze our glute, this will try to relax. Squeezing the glute will try to get this to relax. The time frame that we are holding for is 1 to 4 minutes. Ideal range, 2 to 3 minutes. 1 minute is kind of just knocking off the top. 2 minutes is where you're really gonna start to get benefit from this. Above 2 minutes is where you're gonna start actually changing the way your body functions. And you'll notice me just sitting here, I am sliding down. So in the first minute is just knocking the top off the tension. Use a prop if you have to on your rear leg side, anything you want. You will see people use really tall staffs and put them up here, but most people don't have really tall staffs standing around. So let's use our steel mace. Hand out in front, drive your shoulder down into the socket. As you drive that down to fire this lat, that's gonna track down into this hip, and I want you to pulse this glute. I want you to squeeze the glute as hard as you possibly can for about 7 seconds or until it starts to shake, and then relax and drift your hip forward. Squeeze your glute as hard as you can, relax, drift forward. If you need to move your lead leg further forward, halfway through, go for it. Squeeze the glute as hard as you can, drift forward. I want you to keep your eye gaze straight out in front. If you look up towards the sky, people tend to crane their neck. Looking up towards the sky is great for people who have a constant yoga practice, but for your average person, somebody going to the gym, a workman, somebody who gets hit a lot, doing that's not a great idea. We are going to just keep this towards the hip and remove the upper part of the body from it for now. Another thing I like to use is my so-right. I place it directly on the ground, hand on, and then I use that to drive the shoulder up towards the sky. The main mistake that people do when they do this is they lean too far forward and they take out a lot of the stretch in the hip. A lot of people will still get stretch just doing this, but take this arm, elbow, drive it down, take the shoulder away from the ear, roll it back and down, fire the lat. We always talk about our lats and our glutes firing, because we need to have conscious control of these muscles to help these muscles relax. Breathe in through the nose, exhale through the mouth. On the exhale, sink down. 3 in through the nose, 3 out through the mouth, 3 glute squeezes for 7 seconds, 3 releases, and then whatever remains of time on the clock, set down and breathe normally in through the nose, out through the mouth, if at all possible. If your rib cage is too far up and you feel your lower back hurt, drive your rib cage down and squeeze your glutes. You could use anything you have handy for a prop. Workmen will use hammers, sledgehammers, all that other good stuff. The same idea is true. Place all the dangerous pointy bits away from you, arms straight out in front, fire the lat down as hard as you can, drive the hip forward, activate the core, inhale, exhale, get the hip towards the ground. This is a super important stretch. People need to relax several major things in their body from living in the modern world. People who live in the modern world tend to have not great glute function because they sit down all the time and their brain doesn't find that connection very well. When you sit down all the time, your hip flexors become shortened. If you sit down for a living or as part of your job, then your hip flexors become shortened, then they pull on everything else in your body and it makes people's backs hurt, it makes their psoas go tight, all kinds of problems happen. Putting any type of hip flexor cool down in will make your life better. You just have to hold it for 2 minutes or longer.